Righto, break things up a bit. We're going to move on to sort of regulatory issues and what have you. But first, Aparna, a poll. Okay, indeed. Please let us know which of these amongst the audience uh, uh, do you understand most, are you most comfortable with? Okay, gone sort of thing. I think we'll have this up for about 30 seconds or thereabouts. And so much for democracy. Hosts and panelists don't get a vote on that one. Thanks, indeed. The committee will take that one. Oh, there we go. Okay, right. Thanks. That's helpful. So we're all 5G experts. We know a little bit about MEC and the video analytics bit. Never fear, we've got some of that coming up. But first, Hafsa. Okay, so we're taking all these high definition pictures of people's faces and things like this. There must be regulatory aspects to running these systems. Could you give us an indication of some of the implications there?
Yeah, sure. So I think the biggest sort of aspect that comes to mind when talking about 5G and also video analytics is sort of the citizens' hesitancy due to privacy and the regulations that exist around there. So I think there's a part about understanding that what actually edge computing allows us to do is to work within the realms of existing regulation where it impacts the privacy of individuals. So it's possible for a camera to be able to process all of the information on edge and only transfer the data that pertains to, you know, an incident or whatever the use case is or irregular behavior, so that actually the privacy of the masses is not compromised. We're seeing solutions come up which actually, you know, anonymize the data before it leaves that device, so before it gets onto the cloud. So it's actually bypassing a lot of the typical regulatory but also consumer um, hesitations that we would see. um, the other area about regulations worth talking about, so from a more local council and cities perspective as well, is working with them. I mean, it's very similar to the poll that we just conducted in the sense that there is different levels of maturity depending on where you go and who you talk to. So you have some cities, not just talking about the UK, but generally globally, um, developed nations, we have cities who really understand 5G, they understand use cases, and, you know, like Paul mentioned, like going out there, trialing things, seeing how it's going to benefit them and the citizens. At the same time, we've got some councils and cities who are not actually sure what 5G does for them. What they get is a lot of people knocking on their doors, asking for planning permissions for things that they don't fully understand. So it's all well and good that there's regulations and a lot of work is being done by the UK government on making sure that we have appropriate regulations for innovation, but there is inconsistency in how it's applied and understood at the local level. As Denny's been mentioning, this uh, this innovation needs to be led by the use case. It needs to be led by the need. And if the end consumer and business doesn't fully understand that, then this can be quite difficult to actually achieve. So it's one of the barriers that we keep seeing as of coming up. So there's number one, understanding of 5G, understanding of what MEC is, understanding of video analytics and how that can help, then going on to actually what the regulations are and how they apply to each council. So whether that's planning permission. I mean, and not so you know, long ago we saw news about, you know, councils taking too long to approve planning permissions. That's a constant thing we hear about. Um, and every time it comes to regulation and everything new, there's always a danger of analysis paralysis, where it's something new, you don't fully understand it, so you go into analyzing loads and actually miss the opportunities that some of these innovations present. So I think yeah, actually, I think it all kind of drills back down to that there's a lack of consistent understanding of the technology itself, but also the regulations that are in place to promote it.
Thanks. Yeah, indeed. I mean, I think it's a given that we need more stuff, furniture, kit for 5G, and this means a lot of locations, sites are required by infrastructure providers, operators to do this. And there isn't universal understanding, peace and harmony around that process. I've been quite impressed with the work that's been primarily driven out of West Midlands Combined Authority and the DCMS barrier busters around things like EC code valuations and how to take some of the pain out of that, and also the strategic mapping of location for potentially assets as you digitalize going forward. Paul, you must have plenty of experience of smart cities context of some of these regulatory issues. Can you share some learnings, both
Uh,
positive, negative, maybe?
yeah. So I think in terms of the deployment of infrastructure, it benefits me very well. That's how I make a living. So we are starting to see councils employing people who are actively there to engage with the market, and kind of my job is to go at the market and get more people to deploy more in North Tyneside and to deploy faster and better. Um, so we are starting to see changes in that, and I think we are starting to see changes in attitudes, and kind of, as with many things, the COVID crisis has helped that in terms of reframing the importance of digital infrastructure. So it's no longer just seen as, oh, well, people are digging up the roads or putting masts up. And I think that's really helped and changed the attitudes. In terms of the regulatory issues, I think, like Hafsa said, there's some things that edge computing can help with. I think the other things that we've done is we've worked really closely with the university and with people like MHCLG, making sure that we do really robust ethical assessments on anything that we do. So kind of we rule out and say we're not going to do as many things as we say we are going to do, because everything's technically possible now. The other thing that we did do really early on was have this ethos of, we're going to work out in the open and we're going to be really transparent about what we do. And part of that, so people can see what we're doing, but part of that is actually all of our benefit really comes from citizen behavior change and people making more informed decisions. So we always said from the start, we want to push as much information out to the citizen as we can. So making sure they know exactly what we do. So all of our CCTV cameras, you can go on a website and you can look at every 5 minutes, it takes a snapshot, and those are open source for anyone to use. So all of the public can actually see all of the things that we are using as well. So there's this real trust and transparency around kind of, how does a city not look like a big brother, when that's inherently the kind of what people think of when they think of cameras. And like I say, our approach has just been to be really open and honest and be really visible and be really encouraging for people to interact with the data themselves, but making sure that that's backed up by, again, if you look on the How Busy Is Toon website, you'll see a really robust privacy statement. So exactly what we're doing with the data, how we're processing it, and how long we will keep it, and ethical assessments around what we will do and what we won't, and what things we are happy to do. So we'll never track people, we just count people. We never kind of look at people's faces and do any analysis on that. We don't really do routes of, like, we'll never track where you've been in a city. We might track the direction that you're walking in, so we can see how many people are going up a street and how many people are going down a street. But we never kind of track individuals around. So I think it's just having those kind of core principles that you then stick to, because there's always oh, but it can do this. We could see who's wearing a mask and we could police mask usage. And those are things that we've just never wanted to do and have no desire to do. So it's about that being brave enough to say, like, the technology can do it, but we don't want to do that. And these are why we don't want to do those things.
Sound, yeah. Just because you can doesn't mean to say you should.